Diversity is strength.
Diversity Leadership in Canada's Education System. By Kian Brideson. In collaboration with the University of the West Indies Open Campus. What is diversity leadership? Diversity leaders recognize that cultural preferences differ. Therefore, they adopt strategies and processes that work for more group members. I choose Canada because they are no stranger to diversity, as this year, they aim to welcome 401,000 new immigrants, the highest in Canada's history, Elisal and Thévenot, 2020. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau states that diversity is Canada's strength. Come. Let us see how Canada's diversity leaders adapt and create strategies to provide a high-quality education system for their multicultural society. The reason I am drawn to the type of diversity leadership practice in Canada. Canada boasts as number one the most educated in the world, with 56.27% of adults having a higher education. They are recognized as having exceptional education quality from elementary school to post-secondary studies. Canada is one of the most multicultural, diverse international countries in the world. According to the Prime Minister of Canada Justin Trudeau, 1/5 of Canadians were born elsewhere, and chose to immigrate to Canada. In the largest city, more than half were born outside Canada. Furthermore, their history is filled with many positive moments such as the Underground Railroad, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, the Multiculturalism Act, the Official Languages Act, the welcoming of Ismaili Muslims, the freedom for Jews and Sikhs, Hindus and evangelicals to practice their religion as they choose. Diversity is Canada's strength, 2015. What kind of inclusive and equitable policies and processes have they implemented in order to accommodate diversity? According to Campbell, 2020, the Ontario Human Rights Code came into effect in 1962 with commitments to equal rights and opportunities and ending discrimination and harassment linked to race, color, gender identity or expression, sexual orientation, disability, creed and age. Also, a range of policies was developed and implemented for specific student populations. For instance, English language learners, many roots, many voices. Supporting English language learners in every classroom and a practical guide for Ontario educators. Supporting English language learners grades 1 to 8. The French language education systems, Ontario's aménagement linguistique policy for French language education. The gender gap in literacy, me read? No way. A practical guide to improving boys' literacy skills in me read? And how? Ontario teachers report on how to improve boys' literacy skills. Indigenous students, Ontario First Nations, Métis and Inuit education policy framework and building bridges to success for First Nations, Métis and Inuit students, developing policies for self-identification, successful practices from Ontario school boards. How are their educational leaders trained, principals, education officers in the area of diversity to assist immigrants? Working knowledge and awareness of culture, diversity and intercultural competence can help school leaders promote a diverse, sustainable, and global education, thus ensuring they are prepared for the multicultural and diverse reality of schools in the 21st century. Ontario is the most ethnically diverse province in Canada, therefore, school educators cannot disregard the reality of diversity in all its senses. According to Tutors and Portelli, 2017, the supports and training available to assist educational leaders and educators in supporting the learning needs of diverse student populations demonstrate a serious lack of support. Very few actual resources exist for leaders, and most of those that do exist are connected to agencies outside of the education system, such as settlement services. There is a great need for leadership preparation programming, and school-level resources that provide educational leaders with the knowledge and skills to support all students in their academic and social development, but also in helping educational leaders to understand and address the systemic nature and forms of discrimination which their students face daily. Practical implications, with very few school boards requiring leaders to have a master's degree in education, and none having stipulations regarding course content. This leaves educational leaders unprepared to deal with the reality of their situations, leading to the perpetuation of inequities in Ontario schools. Forward to Upper Canada District School Board Equity and Inclusion Plan for the period September 2018 to December 2020. Prepare and implement an equity self-assessment tool for school leaders and teams to determine compliance and progress on board goals outlined in the Ontario's Education Equity Action Plan, 2017. Provide training for school leaders and hiring managers to facilitate equitable recruitment and hiring practices to reflect Ontario's diverse society. Review and establish self-reflection and self-assessment tools to determine the effectiveness of the school's equity and inclusive education plans and procedures. Build the data reporting cycle that includes data from vulnerable populations. Provide training to build awareness of all equity-related policies and procedures to all employees of the board. Implement procedure of expectations for the support and accommodation of transgender and gender non-conforming students. Provide ongoing education and training for students, administrators, teachers, including guidance counselors, support staff and trustees in implementing equity and inclusive education and leadership initiatives. Establish selection criteria for leadership positions that include demonstrated commitment, knowledge and skills related to equity and inclusive education implementation and inclusive leadership, and cognizant of code compliance. 2.3. Provide ongoing training for all staff that reflects comprehensive attention to the principles of human rights and their fundamental role in an equitable and inclusive environment. Strive to include members of communities that are underserved and/or marginalized in shared leadership. Establish a collaborative culture where the collective capabilities and voices of all stakeholders are used to develop and implement equity and inclusive education goals. Promote equity-minded student leadership related to issues of social justice. Demonstrate leadership in setting the tone for the positive and proactive implementation of the equity strategy and values diversity in the schools and recognizes that every child is a unique individual and learns in different ways. Training and resources focusing on differentiated instruction, the Aboriginal education strategy, and the Aménagement linguistique policy for French language education are just a few of the ways in which the ministry is helping educators enhance learning by taking account of students' particular learning styles and circumstances.